Welcome to the Chairman's Perspective Podcast. Chairman.
Welcome back to the Chairman's Perspective. We are your eyes and ears on everything Memphis and Shelby County, and sometimes even across the bridge in Arkansas. I'm here with my co-host, DC.
Yes, sir. I'm right here in the chair.
I'm your host, Van Turner Jr., and today we have a great show. We have Mr. Reed Dahlberger in the studio. He is the president and CEO of the Memphis and Shelby County Economic Development Growth Engine. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on the Chairman's Perspective, powered by the Kudzukian Network.
The Chairman's Perspective on the Kudzukian Network.
Keeping it real, right, and funky.
Is this an opportunity that we can seize and express interest from the governor and the state to act on the behalf of young people in Shelby County? There are stories that we don't want to tell because they will piss some folks off, make some folk mad.
Funky politics on the Kudzukian Network.
Kudzukian! The Chairman's Perspective on the Kudzukian Network.
DC, this is going to be a great show because today we have none other than Reed Dahlberger here. He is the president and CEO of EDGE. And so welcome to the show, Mr. Dahlberger.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a pleasure to be here.
And I think the first question that we really need to tackle is, President Dahlberger, what does EDGE stand for and what is EDGE?
EDGE is the Economic Development Growth Engine for Memphis and Shelby County. We are the city and county's economic development staff. EDGE was created in 2011 to unite a number of pre-existing, separate, fragmented economic development efforts that the city and county had created over a period of many years under one umbrella. So we here in Memphis and Shelby County could have a stronger economic development effort, accelerate growth, create more jobs, and really bring more wealth to the community.
And you say various entities folded into EDGE. What were those entities?
So the primary entities were, there was an old industrial development board that became part of EDGE. Yeah. There was the Depot Redevelopment Corporation. You remember the Depot, the former military base down by the airport?
Right. Yeah.
The Memphis and Shelby County Port Commission, which runs the International Port of Memphis, is now part of EDGE.
Oh, wow.
And what used to be called the Office of Economic Development, part of the Memphis and Shelby County Division of Planning and Development, that got rolled into EDGE as well. Foreign Trade Zone 77, some other individual programs. So a lot of things that the government had created over a period of years to help grow the community all came under one umbrella so they could be centralized and made more efficient.
So EDGE, you said, was a county and city entity. So how often do you interact with the city and the county?
Virtually daily between the administrations and council and commission members. I suspect not a day goes by that there's not at least one, if not multiple conversations. The chairs of the respective council and commission economic development committees are typically very actively involved in EDGE. They sit on our board. They are oftentimes the conduit for comments, suggestions, questions from their colleagues. But obviously, we deal with both mayors, their senior staffs as well. So it is we are very tied in with both county and city government.
Well, Reed, I want to make sure I jump in here because you mentioned a lot of those acronyms that a lot of folks. I heard IDB, of course, the Industrial Development Board. Now, and then the Memphis and Shelby. I thought the IDB, and maybe some of us out there also thought the same. The IDB and the Memphis River Port were the same, but it wasn't, right?
Those were two separate legal entities. Both had their own boards of directors, nominated by the mayors, approved by council and commission. They both have a different legal authority, and they oftentimes worked in concert, but you would occasionally have a situation where a project came up which would involve both organizations. And the board of one organization would strongly believe that the public was best served by going in one direction. Yeah. And the board of the other organization might believe with equal fervor that the public good was best served by going in the other direction. And because it wasn't an easy way of reconciling that, we slowed ourselves down. We confused the people we were trying to work with, who we were trying to convince to make investments here. And so all of those individual entities, some of whom had no relationship with each other, other than the fact that the mayors nominated their boards, we're all brought under one umbrella.
Wow. You're listening to Chairman's Perspective, powered by the Kudzukian Network. And before I get into this question about regionalism, I want to kind of address that with actually both of you all, because I know Chairman Turner is now one of those folks who's in this wheel, so to speak, that kind of helps control policy in our county and our community. But 2011 really was when we came up with this one singular idea to say that, wait a minute, y'all, probably for 50, 60, 70 years or 80 years, policy has been off a bit. Mr. Chairman,
I think that it all comes down to efficiency. When you look at Nashville and Davidson County, the fact that they were able to consolidate their governments has really propelled Nashville to what it is today, I believe. And so although, the consolidation effort here failed, consolidating core areas of government has succeeded. And we see that, I think, in the successful consolidation of those entities under EDGE.
Yeah.
So I'm very much elated that EDGE has worked out so far. It was a good idea then. It is still a good idea to have a one-stop shop. That means when John Doe Corporation comes into Memphis and Shelby County, they only have to deal with one entity to get any type of incentive that they would need to move their business here. And understand, we're competing against the region. I know we're going to talk about that later. South Haven is blowing up.
Oh, God.
West Memphis wants to blow up.
Yeah.
We saw Marco McClendon here, the mayor of Little Rock.
That's right.
And so we have to compete against these other cities to ensure a good economic future for Memphis and Shelby County. Therefore, I appreciate the fine work of Reed and EDGE and Chairman Al Bright. He's the chair of the board of EDGE. And, I think this was a good decision.
Reed, throwing it to you as well. 2011, I know you're new to you kind of new to Memphis a little bit. You've been here for a while, but I imagine when you came in, you said, oh, my goodness, really? We're there?
Well, I think the truth is that most of the country isn't getting it right yet. In other words, most of the country is still fragmented.
Yeah.
You see very few communities that have combined city-county government. Yeah. So, we look at Nashville with a little bit of envy, but recognize that they're one of a handful of communities that have pulled that off. So truthfully, while we could look back at 2011 and say, well, it took so long, we could also say, we finally got it right.
Yeah. And we look at where we're at right now. I think we're on the upswing. We do have momentum, right?
Absolutely.
And let's speak about that momentum. And I think, Chairman, you hit it a minute ago about regionalism. From a regional perspective, and I guess throw it to both of you all. Are we getting this thing right yet? Have we gotten into the fact that, or are we working with everybody, and there are a few that are working with us, so to speak? I don't want to just throw it in South Haven's lap or West Memphis's lap, but are we having a good regional play at the sandbox? Are we in the sandbox together?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think that we are still the hub and center of the Mid-South. So the other cities within Arkansas and Mississippi look to Memphis with envy. They still come here to do their shopping. They come here to go to the Grizzlies games, and they come here to play and have fun, go on Beale Street.
Yeah.
And so I still think that we are the apple's eye of the Mid-South, but these other entities are jealous.
Yeah.
They want to be the
top dog.
The top dogs. So they're moving in on us.
Yeah.
They're moving in on us, and we got to stay ahead. We still have to make Memphis the hub and key to the Mid-South, and I think investing in entities such as EDGE, supporting EDGE and what they do is part of what we have to do.
Well, you know what? Reed, before you go into your answer, let's take a quick little break. Take a quick break right here. We'll be right back on the Chairman's Perspective. I'm DC, and of course our host is Chairman Van Turner, and we're sitting here having a great conversation with Reed Dolberger, the President and CEO of EDGE.
The Chairman's Perspective on the Kudzukian Network.
Jazz, America's own original musical art form. When did it start? Who were and are some of the major players? How do you distinguish what kind of jazz you're listening to? We talk about the great and lesser-known artists, songs and tunes, the instruments, and the social impact jazz has had on world culture since its beginning at the start of the 20th century.
Riffin' on jazz on the Kudzukian Network. Kudzukian!
Hi, I'm Reed Dolberger, President and CEO of EDGE. And when I want to catch up on all things Shelby County, I check out The Chairman's Perspective on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or right here on the Kudzukian Network.
And we're back on The Chairman's Perspective. I'm your host, Van Turner, and here is my co-host with me,
DC, right here, Mr. Chairman.
And today we have Reed Dolberger with us. He is Chairman, President, CEO of Edge.
That's and right. He's got it all, right?
He has it all. Actually,
he wears a bunch of hats now, right?
The chairman is Al Bright. I'm sorry, but he's the president and CEO. You don't look like Al Bright.
No. Al's shorter, I think. I think Al's a little shorter.
Yeah.
They both wear glasses, all right?
Yeah. That's right. So, Reed, we were just talking about regionalism and making Memphis competitive as these other markets grow in Arkansas and Mississippi. And you were about to answer. What are your thoughts?
Well, so obviously I agree with you that it's our job, our mission, is to make sure that Memphis and Shelby County prosper.
Yes.
The best way to do that is to get an alignment of all the resources. So regionalism starts within Shelby County. It starts with Memphis and the suburban communities. And I think we're seeing a better job there. I think there's more collaboration there than there's been in the past. The medical device industry is a great example. We have, it's a critically important industry for our community where we have the second highest concentration of manufacturing jobs in the orthopedic industry in the nation.
In
here
Memphis?
In Shelby County.
Shelby County, yeah. Okay.
And you see those firms scattered throughout our county. And so you see the county really collaborating there. So, it's Memphis, it's Bartlett, it's Arlington, it's the Shelby County Commission, really all coming together to make that industry strong. What we haven't really seen yet is our ability to reach outside our own county boundaries, not only to across to Mississippi and to Arkansas, but really into the rest of West Tennessee and get a good alignment. And we're working in that direction, but when we get there, we'll achieve more of what the chairman was just talking about. Nashville's advantage, unified government, everybody rowing in the same direction, pulling in the same direction. Right now, we're all competing for the same jobs. Competition's a wonderful thing, but if we were all competing on behalf of a whole, we would be stronger. We'd have more resources. We'd have a unified message. So I think we are getting there, but truth be told, there are a lot of communities around the nation that have already achieved that.
Yeah, that's right. Now, we always have the jobs discussion. And so the question is, if we have jobs, are our people qualified for those jobs? So what say you? One, is there a shortage of jobs here in Memphis and Shelby County? And two, are we preparing our young people to be qualified individuals who can work those jobs?
So I think it's fair to say that Memphis, like the rest of the nation, has a skills shortage, has a talent gap, in part because we are exporting talent. A lot of our, I don't know about a lot, some of our young people who are going to school here, some are going to college here but not returning, at least immediately. Others are leaving to go to college and don't come back, at least immediately. So we are exporting talent to other markets. But the truth is, around the nation, we're seeing skills gap, talent gap. We know that if you are a manufacturer in this community, you're going to find it difficult to find skilled workers. Why? Well, in large part around the nation, people don't go into manufacturing anymore. They have this vision of it being hot and dirty and just not a pleasant place to work. When in fact, modern manufacturing is quite the opposite. But they have a perception issue, and therefore they have a recruitment issue. We have, as part of EDGE today, an organization called the Greater Memphis Alliance for a Competitive Workforce. And through that, and it is a nonprofit entity, it's a workforce.
We've had them on the show, GMAC-WA, I think. Yeah, we just call them GMAC-WA.
So their job is to be the bridge, the link between employers and workforce and training entities. We have a federal grant through the U.S. Department of Labor to work with 6 local training partners, so University of Memphis, Southwest Tennessee Community College, Moore-Tech, and others, to train local individuals in 6 high-demand occupations in the medical device industry. And these people go through the training, and there are jobs waiting for them. And we are finding it a little difficult to find people to sign up for the training.
Wow.
In large part because they have this perception of manufacturing. And so, in that case, we have a recruitment issue. We know that at the upper end of the skills spectrum, finding experienced IT workers, coders, people who can work with technology. Difficult in this market. Difficult in almost every market around the country because the demand has outstripped the supply. And so people who have skills, people who have talent, have choices. So the interesting thing in economic development, 10 years ago, we were all chasing companies. You land the company, people will follow.
Yeah.
Today, we need to be chasing talent as much as we're chasing companies, because companies will locate where you can prove you have the talent that they need.
You're listening to The Chairman's Perspective, powered by the Kudzukian Network.
So let's turn to IT. I mean, that's the wave of the future.
Yeah.
T-STEM is important. STEM is the craze among, I think, K through 12 education now, and rightfully so. Are we creating equity when it comes to Memphis IT? And do you see that the companies that are asking to come into the Memphis and Shelby County area are relying more and more on IT services? And are we equipping our young folk with what they need to assume those positions? I know we talked about manufacturing, but what about IT?
Well, so to some degree, every company today is an IT company.
Right.
And companies that we think of in every walk of life, from theoretically old line manufacturers to FedEx to any company that you can think of, is in some degree a tech company and probably has a significant number of IT openings. Just put it in perspective, listeners may remember that last year Amazon staged this national competition to locate their second headquarters, HQ2, somewhere.
5,000 jobs, I think they were.
It was supposed to be 50,000 jobs,
Wow,
paying $100,000 a year. Why were they proposing to move out of Seattle? Well, in part because of high cost, but also in part because between Amazon and Microsoft and
Google
Starbucks
and
Google, they had exhausted the IT supply. So IT workers are in short supply everywhere. So one of the keys is train our own. And Mr. Chairman, to your question, I think we are now beginning to do a decent job in training our own. And you hesitate to mention any particular programs because you're going to leave out some good ones. But just to name a couple, I mean, we've got Code Crew, we've got Black Girls Code, we've got Tech 901. There is more and more of an emphasis here in Memphis in training people, but particularly women and minorities, to get into these technology fields. It would have been great if we had been doing this a decade ago, but at least we're doing it now.
Yeah.
And so we are setting the stage, because whether they stay here or move, and of course we want them to stay.
Right.
We're creating a life for these people. Those skills are transferable anywhere. Those skills will be in demand.
Careers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to be doing more of that. Shelby County Schools in the last couple of years has really begun to put more and more of an emphasis on what in the old days we would have called vocational education. Because not everyone's going to go to college. Not everyone's going to get a liberal arts degree. That's important. The fact that our schools are doing it, the fact that these outside programs are doing it, eventually we will run out of bodies before we run out of jobs.
Well, we look forward to that day.
Not running out of bodies, all right?
No, sir. What he said. So
right.
we're training too many people. We don't have a job, so we're exporting all this great talent, and what we'll have to do then is invite more businesses to come into the area so that we can supply them with these great students of IT that we will be producing. So we're going to put a pin in it right there, and we'll be right back on The Chairman's Perspective, powered by the Kudzukian Network.
Chairman.
The Chairman's Perspective on the Kudzukian Network.
The off-year electorate, the midterm electorates, are older, less diverse, more conservative. You have two electorates fighting for the future of this country. And what I'd say to your viewers and people listening in is, you know what? You got to stop that older, less diverse electorate from funking around with your future.
Funking up your airwaves and jamming the good information in your ear. Once again, it's Funky Politics.
Funky Politics.
And we're back with The Chairman's Perspective, and today we're talking with Reed Doleberger. He is the president and CEO of the Economic Development and Growth Engine. Of course, I'm accompanied by my great host, co-host DC.
Yes, sir. I'm right here, sitting in the chair.
And so this is what everyone wants to talk about anyway. We're going to talk about pilots.
Oh, wow.
A pilot is a payment in lieu of taxes. And so where are you on pilots? Yay or nay?
I'm a firm yay.
Yay. I'm going to write that down, Reed. So
I know it's a shocking answer.
Yay or nay?
That's a shocker. So for the audience, pilots are partial, temporary reductions in property tax that we can offer a company in return for jobs, wages, capital investment, and a commitment to contract with local women and minority-owned firms. So it's a quid pro quo. It is the most important local development incentive tool that we have here in Tennessee. Other states have a variety of tools, particularly states that have income tax, because they'll rebate some of that income tax to the companies. Tennessee, fortunate we don't have income tax, but the one tool we do have is the pilot. And what we see is in the world that the economic development world, as it has evolved over the last really couple of decades, has become more and more competitive. Companies are more and more likely to move or to place new investments where they will get the greatest rate of return.
Sure.
Part of that has to do with what the community is willing to offer, what the community is willing to invest. And through the pilot program, we are hopefully making very smart investments on behalf of the city of Memphis and Shelby County government to attract new companies to the community, help startups get their footing, and retain some of our more important companies and employers here in the community.
Well, let me ask you this. So pilots get this negative, there's this negative perception that they're all bad. But when you've got a FedEx, and I'm just going to take a stab at this thing, Mr. Chairman, I'd say maybe 30,000 employees that are locally based in, maybe a terrible stat, locally based in Memphis and Shelby County, and they want to expand to bring on another 1,000 or 2,000 employees, potential employees. How do you say no to them? I mean, even with this negative perception, how do you say? And they've been a great corporate citizen, right? I mean, I don't think we could ask FedEx to do anything else. I mean, just being honest with you, what else could you ask?
That's absolutely.
If they rolled up the runways tomorrow, we're done. We're almost done as a city, right?
Right.
And so, I mean, I hate to be that negative about it, but a FedEx saying, "Hey, look, we'd like for you to look at this in terms of in lieu of for 1,000 jobs." What do you say about that?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, but I'm going to take that example further. So FedEx is, at some level, the easy example, right?
Sure.
Because they are so incredibly important to our community. But if we're doing this right, and I think we really are, but if we're doing this right, we're making sound investments in a lot of companies, including a lot of smaller ones.
Yes.
Obviously, not everyone is a FedEx. But when you think about when a company makes an investment, they're putting their capital at risk. They're putting themselves at risk.
Sure.
And they're creating value. And some of that value is purely theirs. They're going to increase sales. They're going to increase profitability. That's why they do it. And we're hoping that they're successful. Some of the benefit they create, though, is for us. It's for the community. It's those jobs, the wages, the things they buy in the community, the things their employees buy in the community.
And their community engagement as well, too, right?
That's right.
Corporate citizenship.
That's right. Their charitable engagement. So all of those things are on our side of the ledger, the public side of the ledger. And what a tax abatement really is, and what the company is really saying is, we want to get at least a little bit of our direct contribution to the company back on our side. Now, we can all say philosophically, we don't like that. We would like you to make the investment, you to take the risk, but all of that upside come to us. And that's fine. That's
sure.
If that's your perspective, exactly.
Yeah.
The way we look at it is, if we're doing our job right, if we give you a little bit of your tax money back, we're still getting more money than we were before. If you take a vacant piece of land and someone's proposing to put up a new facility and we wind up doing a 75% tax abatement, 25% of something, the last time I checked,
is better than
100%. Is better than 100% of nothing.
Wow.
And one little stat, I don't want to throw out a lot of numbers on a podcast, but we have an economic impact analysis done on every project we do. And if you take all of the projects approved by the EDGE board since they were created in 2011, in terms of local city and county tax dollars, we're projecting $2.61 to the city and county for every dollar we abated. It's a 261% return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone not take that deal?
That's
We're taking those deals, aren't we, Mr. Chairman?
That's exactly right. So there's a lot of development in downtown, midtown, but we don't see as much development in other areas throughout the community, which are challenged. We would like to see more development in Whitehaven, Hickory Hill, Fraser, so on and so forth. And what do we have to do in order to influence or encourage development outside of midtown and downtown?
That's a great question, and one that really Edge has become quite focused on. So when we were created, we talked earlier in the podcast about how a lot of pre-existing programs got put under the Edge umbrella.
Sure.
But really, all of those programs were focused on industrial users, some large office users, particularly in the East Memphis market. And that was fine. That's what they were designed to do. That's what they did do. But after Edge was created and we got a little comfortable in our roles, the staff and the board determined that we could take the same authority we had, pilots, the ability to do loans or grants, the ability to buy, sell, develop real property, and use them in the inner city as well, in areas that weren't benefiting as much. And so we created, for example, the Community Builder Pilot Program, where we waived a lot of our existing rules and designed a program specifically for inner city redevelopment. And so, we're proud that we did a project with the Southgate Shopping Center and Cash Saver to refill a vacant Kroger in a neighborhood that really needed that grocery store.
Right.
The shopping center at Sam Cooper in the Binghamton Center benefited from a community builder pilot. We have a couple that haven't come out of the ground where we're working to help bring tenants, Fraser Gateway Project, Community Docks. So we created a program because we see the market's not quite strong enough to take off. Another really interesting program, we do these pilots, we charge fees. We live on those fees in part, but we also charge a separate fee that we use to fund a program we call Inner City Economic Development. And it is a forgivable loan. Means if you do what you say you're going to do, after 3 years, it's a grant.
Wow.
And this is for businesses in distressed inner city neighborhoods. And these are one of the things that frustrates me more than almost anything is the fact that these projects don't get much attention. They don't get a lot of publicity. And there are just some incredible stories of people coming back to the neighborhood they grew up in and opening a restaurant, opening a store, a grocery store. But we've done 56 of these ICE loans. We've dispersed about $1.3 million. And these are, our part is a small part. We're doing a $15,000 grant, $20,000 grant, $25,000 grant.
That makes a difference to a small business, though,
right? It makes all the difference in the world. And we're in Whitehaven, we're in Soulsville, we're in Fraser, we're in Binghamton. We're in all the neighborhoods we need to be in. And so, Mr. Chairman, to your question, what we need to do is we need to do more of that. And I think the Memphis 3.0 planning initiative and its identification of anchors and places that we need to focus on will help. Creating more programming to nudge the market where it needs to be will help. And I think generally speaking, as the city, as its vibrancy grows, that'll help a little bit too.
Well, you know what? You came here with a stack of papers, and I knew this was going to be a lot of information, but we have just a little bit of show. We need to get you back. Mr. Chairman, can we get him back on the show?
Exactly.
You're the chair of this thing here. I want to make sure we can get him back.
We definitely will have you back.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, we'd like to get you back right here on the Chairman's Perspective. Thanks a lot for stopping by with us, Reed. Look, we've had a wonderful conversation. We'll be right back here just after a brief break right here on the Chairman's Perspective, powered by the Kudzukian Network.
The Chairman's Perspective podcast on the Kudzukian Network.
Hey, I'm your host, Cynthia Daniels.
And I'm your co-host, Williams Brack. And Grindset takes a deep dive into the mentality of the entrepreneur in Memphis.
This show unpacks the entrepreneurial journey. What's your Grindset?
So make sure to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, or your favorite podcast provider.
Grindset on the Kudzukian Network.
I think we've had another great one, DC. What about it?
You know what? Reed Dolberger, this guy is calm, he's cool, he's collected. When he speaks, I know you guys downtown listen. He comes with the facts. Tonight, he just laid out the facts.
Yeah.
Pilots are good. They're not bad.
No,
they're definitely not bad. When you got places like FedEx and some of these other larger, and then you got smaller ones like they're doing some inner city granting.
Absolutely.
How can we say pilots are always bad? Because they're not, Mr. Chairman.
You take a zero yielding plot of land that's not giving us anything, and you turn it into something. And as he said, zero is better than nothing. 25% of what that property is worth in the future is better than nothing. And so I think
he said 100% of zero.
100% of zero. You got it right. And so I think he made the case. And hopefully we will start changing some of the public perception as it relates to payment in lieu of taxes. And so we appreciate Reed Dolberger being here with us. And as with Edge and Reed Dolberger, we're always looking to bring you good information about Memphis and Shelby County here on the Chairman's Perspective, powered by the Kudzukian Network. And we'll see you next time.
The Chairman's Perspective Podcast. Executive producer, Shelby County Commission's Van Turner. Hosted by Chairman Van Turner Jr. and Darrell DC Catron. Recorded at Kudzukian Studios. Directed, produced, and distributed by Kudzukian.